In this video, I'll be going through the basics of Substance Painter. So being able to just move around, what the different menus we have here, and starting up a new project, which is what we'll do right now. So when you open up Substance Painter, you'll have this sort of dark void here. So if you go to File, New, we can start up a new project. You have various different templates here at your disposal, so you can kind of set something toward more Dota 2. You've got metallic roughness, you've got an alpha test version, specular glossiness, and you've also got workflows for Unity 5 and even Unreal 4. We're going to just stick with the basic PBR metallic roughness. Again, we're going to use the metallic roughness pipeline for pretty much anything games related. We don't really use specular glossiness in games, or some people do, but this is the one that we're working with so far, so we're going to keep going with that. Next, we just select our mesh. So press select, and hopefully you've saved out as an FBX. I'm going to be using algorithmics on meshes, so I'm going to use the HoloSite law. Null map format, you can change that to DirectX or OpenGL. Just keep it at DirectX, to be honest. And then you can also set the document resolution. Now, the good thing about Substance Painter is the fact that you're not locked into place with one resolution. So yeah, you might want to set this up to, like, say, a 1024 map, but you can upscale and downscale as you see fit without any sort of loss in detail. If anything, you're going to increase the detail essentially. So it's not until you actually export the texture maps when it's locked into place. Substance Painter is quite open. You can change it as you see fit. So I would always go for a 2048 one, and we'll upscale and downscale later on as we see fit. Then once that's all done, you press OK. So you see here now that I have the HoloSite. So to move around in Substance Painter is pretty much the same as it is in Maya. So you hold on Alt, left mouse button rotates around the object, the right mouse button select the slow zoom. You can use the middle mouse button, scrolling it to zoom in and out really quickly, and Alt and middle mouse button to pan across. If you hold down Alt, it will give you all the other options here as well. And you can press F to focus back to your object as well. So here we have everything we need. We have all these different menus at the side here and some here. So we have the layers options and we have the properties here as well. So the layers is essentially the same as they are in Photoshop. So these are all different layers that I can add or take away when I'm painting on a particular model. So, and the great thing about this is that we can click and drag this around as well, so we can customize our UI as we see fit. So maybe I want the layers option over here, or maybe I want the properties options down below, like so. I personally like to set it up like this, where it's the layers on the side and the properties at the bottom as well. I'm pretty sure that's the default in Substance Painter anyway, but it is probably the best workflow because you'll always be going through the layers and the properties for either a brush or for a effect that you've added. On the side here, the first one here is we have the texture set list. So this basically lists all the shaders that you have, which you can turn on and off. So for instance, we'll go for the outer casing. If you click this little white dot, we can hide it or we can show it. So we can turn things on and off. So if you want to work on certain areas of our model, we can just focus on those areas there. If you want to just focus on just one element, so like the dial for instance, we can just press solo. It turns everything off for us, making it a lot easier rather than just pressing all these little dots here. Just soloing it will just save a lot of time, and you can press all to bring them all back as well. Underneath that, you've got the texture settings. And again, you can always pull these off and put them wherever you see fit. So I'll just wait here for a second. So here we can actually change the size of our textures, so from 2048 back to 4096 or lower. We have the channels, so as we are working with the metallic roughness, we've got these main channels: base color, also known as the albedo or albedo, however you want to pronounce it. The height maps, roughness, metallic, and normal maps. We can add other channels as well. So if you click on here, you have a lot of different options that you can go for. The ones that you might want to add is the ambient occlusion. And if you have an object with some sort of transparency, opacity would be a good one to add as well. So on this model here, of course, the actual site itself is going to have a bit of an opacity to it. underneath here you have your shelf. This pretty much has all of the textures, materials, smart materials, alpha maps that you'll be using to paint on the details or the overall color of your object. So we can put this shelf under here or on the side as well, because we might be going to this quite a lot. So we'll put this down here for now. I'll just talk about it really quick. So as you can see, you have all these different tabs here as well. So you've got materials, so you can see you have some pre-made ones already within Substance Painter, which you can just easily just click and drag. So I've got this coated metal here. So let's just check what option I'm on. So we'll go to the outer casing really quick. And the good thing about these as well is with these materials, or even the smart materials, is that we can just click and drag these into the layers and it will add to our object. So I'm going to just put this sort of base metal, and what I can do is I can just drag it straight onto the material itself and it adds it in, or I can just drag it over here. Now underneath here you have the display settings. So with Substance Painter it does actually have a background, but at the moment the environment of the background is set to 0, so we can't see it, but we can actually increase this and you can see we actually have an image there. So you can turn it up all the way up, and you can even get rid of the blur as well. So you see here we have this sort of background. Now the reason why we have these environment maps is that it actually comes with its own sort of lighting. So if I change this to this one here, you might see how the lighting has changed. Don't forget that PBR works based on lighting. It uses the lighting to be able to create a more realistic looking texture maps, and we can change the opacity of this environment, the exposure as well, and even rotate it as well. So you see as I'm rotating the environment, the lighting is also changing as well. Let's put this back to 1. So even if it's blurred as well, I mean that lighting effect is still there. I'm going to turn it down slightly. So if you do want that environment there in the background, you can get it from here. You can actually move the lighting without having to go to the display settings. If you hold on Shift and the right mouse button, you can see that you can actually rotate it around to see how the lighting affects your object. This is a great way to see how like sort of the metals, the roughness is coming out in your material. Have the shader settings here as well, so you can put on something like parallax occlusion. You have the history as well, so you can go back a few layers as well if you need be. And also you have a log as well, everything that you've done here. At the side here you have your brushes. So you have the paintbrush here. You can increase and decrease the sizes at the top. You have an eraser, projection, polygon fills, smudging. So certain things that you might see in Photoshop, but we'll be going through these in a bit more detail as we go through on this series. So that's the basic movements of Substance Painter. So in the next video, what we'll be doing is we'll be baking out some texture maps, and then we're going to get started with some painting.